when you connect with your spirit of service, which is something that is beyond and much, much larger, almost it's on the divine side. When you get that clarity and you connect it and you reconcile it with your physicality, which is the material form, then you can do magic.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm here with Maria, and it's Nebres. Want to make
That's
sure
right.
that I say that right. And
Yes.
Welcome, and thank you so much for allowing me to interview you and share your gifts and your magic to the world.
Thank you for this time. I appreciate it.
No problem. So I just want to read your bio so people can get an idea of who you are and what you're all about. So Maria is the founder of MPCS Inc. with the factor of. She is an international best-selling published author of Love and the Highly Engaged Team, which I love because as a previous corporate executive, I was all about team building, and it was all about, I know that teams are the best way to really get anything done. So I love this. I'm anxious to hear all about it.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
great. She is a certified trainer of Jack Canfield's success principles, and most of us know who Jack Canfield is. And she's an authentic success coach, blending her expertise in human relations, human resource management, and personal success development for motivated individuals to realize their true leadership for abundance. We love abundance in soulful business and life. Maria has been assisting of people and businesses, both profit and not-for-profit, transform their lives and their organizations for over 25 years. She looks way too young to be having done this for over 25 years. It's working well for her. She's in her zone. She has successfully led and facilitated many transformational programs for employee relations and engagement, performance, success management, business and personal transitions. She's just got this passion, and she leverages that for helping people and organizations achieve authentic and lasting success through heart-centered leadership, tapping into everybody's true passion, purpose, core genius, and talents. No matter what the vocation, what kind of work that they're in, this works across all venues. It is in this way that she believes the essence of the working world will heal for lasting abundance, which we all know that we need, especially now, and in harmony with the larger world's healing. So it's about the healing, and that works in the corporate and the personal. So she promotes the vision of ease and abundance through inspiring others by doing what inspires them for better results that serve. She has worked across all paths. We're talking healthcare, financial services, pharmaceuticals, management consulting, technology, food and beverage, research and development, and the public sector. So she has a wide variety of information here. So I'm really excited to learn more about that. And Maria, I'm going to put it when I post these videos, but her website is www.factorof.com. And so I'll make sure that I post her contact information for you. So Maria, wow. I mean, you have a very accomplished life that I can see from just your bio. So
yes.
Wow. So tell me, how did you get started in this?
It's interesting because I got started from having moved to Canada as a young girl. At the age of 6, my parents decided to relocate us from the Philippines, which is my native land, to Canada, the land of opportunity. And at an early age, I grew up learning that you focused on what it was to serve the world, to serve society. I certainly grew up learning and understanding the ethics of work And there was a certain order in which you would achieve and attain certain things. So I saw it from my dad, who had 5 jobs at the time. I saw it in my mom and the role that she played in the household. And I certainly saw it in terms of the upbringing and the discipline that we were being taught. And then at a certain age, I grew to learn more and more within a new culture, which was the North American way, that, you know, I had more opportunities. I had more opportunities than just being in the house. You know, I witnessed my mom. She loved what she did, but I wanted more because I was, you know, one of 4 children, the only girl, and yet the thought was that my lot in life was going to be, and there's nothing wrong with it, but was going to be to take care of home. The culture of North America was totally different from the culture that was being, you know, instilled in me in my childhood, which was, it's okay for you to, you know, stay at home and take care of family. I wanted something a little bit more. So I ended up going through my education and then finding that I had this natural love for being with people. I'm not much of an extrovert, but I certainly love people. And so I fell into sociology, which I ended up really loving, landed in human resources, and then the story began of my life. I love to help individuals really around, the reason why I like sociology is it is the study of the psychology of what motivates people to do what they do in relation with other people. And that fascinated me. Human resources at the time presented for me that right training ground. So I naturally fell into it, manifested it, I suppose you would say, and I haven't looked back since, except that it grew my interest more and more for how could I serve more in a larger capacity. And that kind of landed me into the work that I did with Jack Canfield. I experienced in the corporate world this thing that I believe a lot of people go through, which is burnout, and not quite knowing how to perform and still be highly engaged. So when I talk about leadership issues around engagement, which fascinates me, it isn't leadership from a role function standpoint so much as it is leadership from a universal standpoint. And who actually owns it is every single individual. So I have that passion to want to share that message, and with whatever truth that I have from the experiences that I gained. I dealt with my burnout from having transformed myself from personal development. And I swear by personal transformation work. When you do your inner work, everything external to you starts to make a lot more sense and a lot easier. Because really, you know, the challenges that we face is really around the relationships between individuals, right? So that's part of why I felt that I was in a position to be able to pivot myself after having earned my stripes of really understanding process and structure, the structures we create, and then how do we play within that structure, and how do we allow for the malleability that really life is all about. So would it really matter if we were talking about the workplace? Not necessarily. It's really about you, the common denominator, and the environment you choose to enter. So that brought me to this big aha moment after having done my personal transformation work and deciding that I was going to go through my first big breakthrough was opening up my own practice at a very young age and deciding, no matter what anybody told me, no, you still need more years. Well, that was 17 years ago. And I took that leap of faith and I trusted myself. And 17 years later, you know, I went through major milestones of wanting to achieve one breakthrough after another. And I called the shots on it. And I'm so proud of it that I really want to share with individuals who have the same spark and spirit to really understand what it is and what it takes that's inherent in all of us. So I had to obviously prove that point. And that's what inspired me deeply to write my first book.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Just amazing. And you just shine. Yeah, I'm just watching you, and you're just, this light and this passion is just shining out on the screen and in everything. And you resonate for me because, as I said, I spent 25 years, I'm a registered nurse by background, but I spent 25 years in the corporate environment. The last many years, probably half of my career in executive roles.
Right.
And so when you talk about the leadership and all of that, I was getting to that point that, gosh, this just isn't doing it for me. And so I had to go deep. I had to go deep and really decide what's my next journey in life. And that actually led me to becoming a life coach. But I would really like to hear, I'm assuming that you have some steps or something. How do you, when you're working with individuals and organizations, what are the key components of starting to do that inner work, would you say?
Yeah. So my book is really centered around, because everyone seems to want a system and everyone seems to want a process. And certainly it does help in terms of knowing that it could be as simple as, really the reason why we have process and frameworks is so that we can do something repetitively, and there is value to the repetition because it creates a sense of discipline, right? It's a sense of habit. So in a lot of the work that I've done, both in personal transformation and within the structures, the corporate structures and platforms, I sort of blended it together to indicate that at base, you have to have some fundamental habits. And they have designed my 8-step process. And I say that with the caveat that it isn't so sequential and so linear as what people think, because the nature of inner work is that it is messy and has to necessarily be messy, and more like a matrix versus something that is so start to finish. And if you're going to take a look at it from that process standpoint, it's going to be start, finish, back, moving iteratively, right? So this 8-step process I have, which is really what designed my whole program or my book, the framework, and my organization. I actually called my organization the Factor Of, because Factor Of is really the acronym for some of the fundamental core bucket steps that an individual would have to apply in order for them to really have a great framework and foundation. And the entrance to that, I believe, in some of the learnings that I had from corporate organizational structure, is it really requires your holistic approach, the whole entire you. And the whole entire you, many people tend to think it just is here. And then all of a sudden it translates into your body, into your physical hands. But somewhere in between there is going to be the cohesion with your heart. And the heart is representative beyond the physicality. It's so representative of something so much larger, which is really, the foundation for what your purpose, your core purpose, really truly stands for. And I call that, everyone has a spirit of service. When you connect with your spirit of service, which is something that is beyond and much, much larger, almost it's on the divine side. When you get that clarity and you connect it and you reconcile it with your physicality, which is the material form, then you can do magic. You can do magic.
Yeah. Yep. Oh man, I hear you, sister. I hear you. The spirit of service. And I just want to share that For people who are tuning in and seeing my videos, there's a reason why I'm doing these videos. I am connected with Maria because we belong to a coaching group, which is a business coaching platform, but it is all for servant-hearted authors, where we are writing books, but our books are really our platform to go out into the world and make a difference, a positive difference. And so we come from all different perspectives, but the core is, as she said, it goes right into the heart. You said that, right into the heart. It's all about being heart-centered. And as a leader, and in big corporations, you know, sometimes that may get lost a little bit because we're in our heads so much. We gotta make, you know, figure out the budget, follow the budget, you know, figure out the strategy and the tactics and all of that. And going back into the heart is so deeply important, and that passion. And so the spirit of service. And so tell me a little bit about how do you help organizations? Do you work with the individuals within the organizations? Do you do bigger things within the organizations as groups? Tell me a little bit about your experience with that.
If I were to categorize the suite of services that I offer, because that's basically what it is, I have served corporate leaders and the functions of leadership. So anywhere from a line manager to a mid-manager to executive, and also at the employee level, because, you know, human resources and the function of human resources touches all. In that nuance and dance, what I find is that leaders in organizations have a great opportunity and are the biggest influencers when it comes to setting the kind of culture that you want to have, so that there is unification when it comes to what this thing is that they call engagement. So, you know, statistics will show that many organizations that have employees in them, and that's really what an organization is. It's a group of people, so it doesn't even have to be corporate. If you've got a business, if you have a movement, if you have an organization, the purest definition of it is a group of people coming together for a common cause. Now, what does that take? It takes leadership, absolutely, and it takes engagement. So how do you engage beyond the inspiration of, hey, I've got a great idea? It's, you know, how do you keep it gelled? And so the work that I do is anywhere from, there's the transactional. If an individual is looking for transactional solutions, my transactional solutions obviously would be in my core technical experience around anything involving the resources of humans, for humans. So I challenge leaders in the work that I do with them with, you know, the kind of language that they end up transposing in terms of how do they lead people. You know, it starts first off with this term called human resources management. There is this misnomer that human resources management means that you're managing the people. And, you know, in this new paradigm that I'm trying to really move, it's let's move away from defining things that really limit high engagement. And, you know, high engagement, the single biggest source for high engagement is love. And when you love and you are able to translate that down into organizational across multiple people for a common cause, it isn't about managing them. It's about what you're managing are the resources that support humans. So a lot of the work that I do with leaders is really understanding that their intentionality or their intentional approach to the kind of culture that they really are committed with. And part of that commitment has to start, in fact, all of the commitment must start from within. So it must start from the leader. So I do a lot of work with the leader to make sure that their vibration and their ripple effect is, that whole term in corporate, can you walk the talk and can you talk the walk? And that is, directed at the leader. And then what are you modeling out so that you're also encouraging folks to do that? Certainly in this day and age and in these really uncertain times, which will become the norm, and the norm is really going to be business unusual. It's not going to go back to the business usual. Why? Because we've been gifted with so many lessons in just, a mere 3-4 months now, right?
Yep. Yeah. Things have changed dramatically. The face of organizations has changed dramatically. And I just love that. I just love that love, I hang on to my little crystal here, but that love is the center of this, because we don't think about that in organizations. But
No.
you're right. It doesn't have to be an organization, it's getting together and all being there for a common cause. And that's where we make a difference in the world. And everybody brings, I know for me, I always said I could walk away from my job and know that everything would just run so smoothly, because the people that I worked with, yes, in a structure, they reported up to me, but they didn't. We were a team. And so everybody brought their strengths, and so it was just so fluid. And so I was able to exit gracefully, and everything still is just flowing just beautifully. And, that's what it's all about. It's, so I wanted to go too, there was something that you had written in it, we had kind of communicated a little bit back and forth, but talk to me a little bit about compassion fatigue. You had used that term, and I thought, I just really love that term, and I'd like to hear your perspective on that. And how do we bring that to people in, not only into their homes and into their own hearts, but into the workplace? And what does that mean?
Right. So certainly I find that in many organizations, when you're faced with having to help other people in their own grieving or trauma, and that happens in the workplace as well. Certainly I've had and I've experienced many leaders going through their burnout. Even in the healthcare sector, let's say, I'm reminded of some of the physicians and the nurses who have experienced that compassion fatigue because of the kind of work that they do. But certainly a leader goes through that as well when they're leading individuals who are facing mental health issues. Mental health issues, by the way, isn't necessarily just reserved for people who are clinically diagnosed something. It's when, something disruptive at the personal level is affecting an individual, and you still need them to perform. So how do you deal with the compassion fatigue? Is having that dance and that conflict where a leader doesn't know what to do. They're experiencing it, and they're feeling the vibration of the individual's grief or trauma, the effects of those base emotions. So we do a lot of work in terms of understanding what is compassion first off. But in the end, compassion requires, to give it requires having a full supply for yourself. And so I help to navigate my clients to really remembering and putting in place their tools around self-care, because self-care should really be translated into soul care. Because when you're doing self-care, there's that, the essence of the spirit of service, the spirit of work does not come from your hands. It's from your essence. And compassion happens to be one of them. So when an organization commits to putting at the business table the value of love. You get certain attributes and the demonstration of certain attributes that will deplete from your essence. And compassion just happens to be one of them. I'm not sure in the United States, I believe you guys have, and I'm using an example. In Canada, they instituted laws for protecting and providing support programs for violence in the workplace, which included domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what the reason for it was because an individual would enter a workplace and they had suffering issues like domestic violence and, the mental health issues that come across that, and the obligation of an organization. So that is already pretty highly emotionally charged. And then you get an employee who's experiencing it and a leader who's needing to manage that whole process. Compassion fatigue can occur. So self-care in general is really where would address certain fatigue at the emotional level that an individual would face. So I used compassion as one example. Certainly it wouldn't have to be something as, specific and as traumatic as that. It could also be that the organization is going through so much high change, and how do they deal with the emotional charges and the varying degrees of emotional attachments that maybe themselves are going through and their employees, right? So, but that's with everyone as well. Like when someone wants to start off a business and they're an entrepreneur and they're looking for, I don't really know what I'm going to do or what I'm supposed to do. It's a highly emotionally charged. And then, you think this individual is probably going through their own fatigue because they're not managing their emotions. And it's okay to manage your emotions. Now, emotional management doesn't mean you repress. So we go through that in terms of explaining that emotional intelligence factor comes into play as well. So we do talk about strategies around managing your emotions as part of that compassion fatigue mitigation.
That's so beautiful. And as you're talking, I was just thinking a couple of different things with this whole idea of in the workplace. I remember at one point, one of my managers who reported to me was having some significant issues with her son. And it was very distracting for her, very challenging for her because of what he was going through. And so that's where we just needed to sit and to be the compassionate leader, to understand what she was going through, and knowing that, her team and what she needed to provide there in the organization was still important to her. So I was telling my daughter-in-law, I said, I remember her son needed to be transported to a treatment facility. And it was another one of these layers of her grief and her stuff that was going on in her life that was pretty constant. And I finally just said, I'm going to go get him and I'm going to transport him, because I just want you to sit here and just be able to just breathe. And I know just how tough this is for you, because when you're in the middle of it and the codependency and all of that, so please let me step in and help you with that. You can stay here and just breathe. And she was so appreciative and it didn't take much. I just got in my car and picked him up and took him, but it made such a difference for both of us, because I felt like I was really serving in such a bigger way for her and him, and that she could just, because she had this grief that was going on and this trauma and just couldn't even kind of see throughout all of that. So it's so important in the workplace that
it is.
We take a look at that. And I also appreciate that you're talking about entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and of which I'm one in my coaching business. this is why we have coaches, you know,
Yes,
right? This is why
absolutely.
we do what we
Absolutely.
do, because Marianne Williamson, I'm in a group with her, and she'll say something like, you can't preach yourself. You can't, you know, we as coaches even need coaches, because we need to understand that there is some compassion fatigue even going on with us, because we may be uncertain. We're not the
That's
experts
right.
in everything. And so that's
Yes.
one thing that I really want to get across here for everybody who's listening. You know,
Hmm.
this is important. The people like Maria to bring into your organizations, even if you're a one-person organization, or if you're a large corporate
That's right.
organization, bringing in someone who really has an understanding of this bigger picture. And as executives and leaders in organizations, serving with your heart needs to come first. I mean, this is
Oh,
what's going
yeah.
on in the world right now.
Absolutely.
All this stuff that's happening, you know, we can
Don't
say,
pat.
oh, this
Yeah.
is horrible. This is horrible. And I'm like,
I,
oh, I think this is just like pretty amazing, because it's, the
yes.
paradigms are totally going to be blown apart. What
Yeah.
felt like an
Hmm.
implosion of the world is actually opening up,
Hmm.
you know, and creating this heart-spaced life that
Yes.
we all can lead in. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And you know, I find that though we are renewing and changing, there is something that's really certain that we will always face, and that will be, in a perfect world, we could have conversations like this where we pick out something and we solve it, or we gain clarity around it. But in the real world, in the reality of life, everything happens. And for every single human being, there is a true leadership in them. And there must be. They must be able to tap into it for all these things, like how do you replenish your resilience? Your resilience is how you can bounce back whenever challenges come your way, because challenges are so inevitable if you're really truly living. You know, the plus side of knowing about life in terms of committing that you want to thrive and you don't want to just survive. I mean, we must survive. So our bodies are, and our brains and our whole being protects us all the time. But I believe that what's happened is that we have conditioned ourselves to believe that every single thing is a crisis.
Mhm.
And it's wearing out like this rubber band where you keep stretching it, stretching it, stretching it, and it's not going to have its resilience. You know, a rubber band's resilience is that it goes back to its original form. But when we are not replenishing it, and one of the things that can help to replenish it is to understand. And to understand the kinds of supports, and that's through awareness. So awareness is a very big part of the coaching that we light workers and spiritual workers and any kind of health and wellness practitioner would highly recommend. It starts with a level of awareness. What are you aware of, and how are you going to be able to orchestrate your own levels of support because of the known? And the known is to thrive and to live in life in a thriving way. You have to understand that dilemmas will happen. A level of discernment is going to always happen where you're going to have to be pressured with choices to make, because you can't move forward without making choices. And so therein lies the whole dichotomy of being blessed with the fact that we have the capability of creating, we have the capability and will of being able to choose whatever comes our way. So why not maximize on it? And there is a way to it. And each of us in the work that we do, which is why what I love about this community of for a new paradigm of shifting for all of us, humanity, understanding what our source is for really healing the world. Like we all got that capability. Um, would require that understanding, you know. And sometimes you would need absolutely, you can't do it alone. And that's the whole thing I love about the collective, right? You know, I must have spent in the last 2 to 3 years, I have invested big time on my continued ongoing transformation supports. And that's not something that anybody can determine for you, but you know, they can offer it to you. And this is why I love these types of platforms, and I truly appreciate that you know, you welcomed me for this chat. Yeah.
And I just want to say there's one thing that I just want to put out there, you know, we talk about spirituality or going, you know, going deep and into the spirit and the essence of who we are. And organizationally and in our jobs, and whether it's corporate or whatever, this is all part of it. We all are these divine human beings. So if you're in a corporate environment and it's like, oh, you can't be talking about that, or you're woo woo, you're crazy because you've got this stuff, you know, that isn't what belongs here. I call BS on that, because the only way that we're really going to survive and heal humanity, which is every one of our responsibility, is to tap into that wisdom that's within each of us, that heart-centered space, and allowing all of the people that we're in contact with to allow their hearts to shine and to share their beautiful wisdom, because this is how we learn, is through each other. And so it doesn't matter if it's the person working in the mailroom, it doesn't matter if it's the CEO at the helm, and everybody within that continuum. This is all about humanity, and it is about heart. So for the people that are watching, say on my LinkedIn channel, and you're going, Pat, what are you doing? It's like, this is what you're stepping up to do here. This is the collective of so many of us that we're here to change the world, baby. You know, we're here to change it in a great way, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it will be, you know, as with, you know, and I take this from my experience within the corporate world, you know, to run a business, there is, you know, I'm not suggesting that there is no value for structure, because you definitely do need structure. You definitely need to have clarified roles of accountability and commitment. And when I say accountability, you need to understand the difference between responsibility and accountability as it pertains not to just to roles, but individuals, you know, and there are so many simple ways. It's just a matter of whether or not all of us are willing to let go of what it is that we need to let go of. And that is the part of the journey and adventure that is so enriching for an individual when they do work with coaches in the spaces that we are in, which is really transformational. You know, if you're afraid, and I'm saying this to the audience, if you're afraid of the word and it just kind of doesn't feel good with you because it's woo-woo, as you would call it, words like soulful or spiritual, then, you know, call it what you want to call it. And the individuals that will help you through it, there is an understanding that when you go and choose for the right coach, that they understand your space first off, because we live in a time right now where it's both feet on two different paradigms. If you want to thrive, you have to understand that you're always both feet on two different platforms. There is the platform of what you know today, and there is the platform of what you want to have tomorrow. And when you are doing that dance, there are basic things that you are saying heaven yes or hell yes to committing. And you know, make sure that you do the homework that you do. And the homework that you do, and that I'm speaking of, is that inner homework. You know, the inner homework that if it resonates for you, if the person's dynamic resonates for you, then chances are explore it, because there is something to be said there, because it is essence that is aligning you both, you know.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We do need to get going here, but I just thank you so much, Maria, for sharing your essence.
Oh, thank you.
I wish I would have had you there many years ago when I was, doing my thing in corporate America and that type of thing. But your essence is beautiful. I appreciate what you're bringing to the world, and I hope that everybody else has an opportunity to look at this. And I will have all of Maria's information so that you can contact her. You can go to her website. You can, check her out. And just thank you so much. I
appreciate this time. I really appreciate it. And you know what? Divine timing had it so that it was perfect that we were meeting today on this. And
absolutely.
I'm grateful. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Peace out.
Peace.
Hi there. Thank you for stopping by our Healing Family Grief channel, where grief can transform into peace, purpose, and even joy. That is the intention. So as host of the Healing Family Grief channel, my goal is to provide insight, inspiration, and hope for people who are grieving a deep loss, or for the people who want to provide support for those who are struggling on their grief journey. If you like what you hear, please like us, give us a thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel to hear more. Also, feel free to share any episodes that you feel could be helpful to someone you know. For more information about the Confident Grief Coach School, or to find a grief coach, or perhaps to order one of my free ebooks, please check out our website at www.healingfamilygrief.com.